Okay, here we are. The chat already got pretty lively over here, even though we're still early. Welcome everybody. Today's lecture will be on the infamous cockroach style. Hi Donna. Which I think I coined like probably 2 years ago by now. First. Well, 1.5 years maybe. But I thought that before we actually go into the main topic of the day, we might just start with a very small warm-up over here. Two Tsumego to think about. Can everybody see it? I'm still not sure I'm totally set up over here for the lecture. Everybody sees the Tsumego? Ah, yes, okay. Yep, so black to play two problems. Number one is upper left corner, number two is upper right corner. They're not extremely difficult or anything, but maybe need some thinking, anyway. Well, okay, upper right corner could be a little bit tricky. Okay, so let's just use a few minutes over here. I call this Tsumego. Tsumego is supposed to be what? More difficult or? So the upper left corner we have a fairly common shape, J group, right? Which, as Tang J is saying over here in the chat, is that looks like it's going to be dead. Usually the J group will die to a white honey at C19 over here. Let's see if there's somebody in the chat who knows the catch for this one. Ah, yes. Okay, so Marcel said it over there. Black has A14. Yep. So basically we have the black block, which becomes the standard J group shape over here. So most people will know that when white plays this move over here, black cannot locally form two eyes in the corner. Hi Oscar. So if, for example, black bumps over here, white goes down. Let's say black tries to form an eye here, white throws in. Okay, this capture is sent, it doesn't matter. And finally black is unable to connect here for a second eye, he gets captured. And for example, this move over here, white goes down. So now if black plays A, white plays B, black plays B, white plays A, and black will only have one eye. But as Marshall said also in the chat, black can play here first. So if white, for example, wants to take the two eyes directly from the corner, this kind of a thing happens, but then the black group will be able to run out. This usually qualifies as alive in Tsumego problems, if the group gets to go out and has at least one eye. So strictly speaking, white has to block over here if white wants to say that he is killing the corner group. Then black plays B17. Okay, white can capture. Black plays a ko threat, white answers, black takes the ko. Can white do something else? What's going on in this corner? So this is basically the kind of shape that white plays elsewhere. Black still cannot play A15 because this one will die, right? But black can then play A17. And now the A15 is actually a real ko for black's life and death. So yes, it's a Yose ko, or I like to call it the approach ko in English. Like one of the players has to play an extra move for it to become a normal ko. But so strictly speaking, this upper left corner shape over here, this black is not completely dead. If the shape was, for example, like this instead, so that black's honey at A wouldn't be sent, now this one would be totally dead. This black has no way of surviving. But with the tiger connection over here, there's still something left for black. 1/4 dead. More like 3/4, I guess, because it's black who is trying to live. And it's black who has the trouble here. 3/4 dead. Quarters? Yeah, so black needs two moves to live. And white needs 2 moves to kill. Yeah, so white captures 3/4 dead, we can say. Okay, but let's go for the upper right corner next. Does somebody know there? Upper right corner is arguably a little bit more difficult because we have more empty space. Okay, here we have Yakagos. Yeah, double Hane, huh? So here, for the sake of argument, if white cuts here, black is going to play this B19, right? And fight a Ko. So this one cannot be captured outright. If white extends, black can block in the corner. This is still going to be the same Ko. If white plays in the corner, then I guess black can Hane. Well, black can, in this case, already probably run out and get the second die on the upper side. So this one also we would be calling alive, or, well, eventually this Ko, right? White blocks. What does black do in this case? I guess it's even possible black might try to connect. It depends a bit on the outside. Because if this happens, the corner is a big L group. This will become a 1000-year Ko like this. And if white takes the corner, then black will cut here. Okay, white connects. Well, I guess the outside is just about strong enough for this, huh? So this black connection at P18 will not do the trick. So what else? Yakago can continue, maybe. P19. So now there's the Ko at O19. If white wants to presume to kill without the Ko, then he has to play in the corner. Black will cut here. Still, white tries to kill without Ko. He connects, and black will basically run out. Well, as long as the upper left corner group isn't like this over here. Most likely this black group is actually going to live on the upper side. Wait a second. A mod is trying to prevent Oscar's comment. I think, yes, that's fine. N19P19 Ko is the most cockroachy shape in the game. Yeah, most likely. This one, and then going back, because a normal connection, neither of the normal connections work, but you can play the hanging connection just to create a Ko shape, not to die immediately, right? Most cockroachy shape in the game. Although most likely there's a second answer to this one. Also, black could play Hane and then play S18. Yes, it seems like N19, P19 was for some reason bad. I don't know why. And actually, I guess... I need to allow this one too. Yeah, so if black simply played S18 in this shape, it seems like white can just go down to level. Like if if black blocks, then white can attach here in the corner. This becomes a 5-point shape. R19 might look promising, but when white takes the liberty over here, then he can play the diagonal. And finally Q18. So black is unable to play this Q18 move. He will get captured. But if black first exchanges this one, then plays S18, can you think of a way to attack this one? White to play. This also becomes kind of cockroachy, finally. Thanks, Fledermaus. the topic is also interesting. I also like the content we have planned for the day. Scuttling to victory. Actually, when I set up this problem, I'm not totally sure I read S18 correctly myself either, because this is it's a little bit challenging. So maybe we can just look it out. So of course white can just capture here. In this case, black's going to play R19, right? So this is going to be a regular ko, which should be pretty fine for white already. White got a ponuki on the outside, and he can fight the ko, and even if he loses it, he doesn't really make a big loss over here. We didn't make any definitions for Cockroach yet. O19 instead of P18. Yes, if possible as white, I think we want to play this O19. So black cannot connect this one because it's the same shape as earlier. So white plays a T18, and it's a 5-point shape that dies. And I think here black has to get creative. Is there a move for black here? So it's most likely going to be R19, right? And in this case, white's going to play here. And if black tries to go down, then white can extend here. And this is also the same shape as earlier. So now black plays P19. Tries to set up this one, which should be a ko again. Ah yes, Oscar is on my track here. And here white might play Q18. Try to force black to connect so this would die. But I think black can capture here. And even though in the corner then there's just one eye, before that black can again try to move out over here to get the second eye. Which is arguably a little bit worse because when white plays here, black doesn't really have time to connect these ones. He will die completely. So at that timing he just has to move out and sacrifice a tail. Is there something else? Can we do a different order here? Like directly P19? This is also something that I would want to think about. So if white captures, then we block here. If white captures, this is a direct ko. But this one and then capture. So this one is just going to die, right? So it has to be this order then. So disgusting as Oscar said it, right? And this one, and then try to break the way out. Yep. So finally speaking, it's a bit difficult to say if black should try this one or if he should play the second honey first and then something like P19. But anyway, the point is that the black group in this corner is not just simply dead. There's something. And even though it's not a clean life, even though it's going to be a messy ko with everything, it's still a possibility waiting for black over there. That's worth to know about. And actually, when you think about it from white's point of view here, so white has this super strong position in the upper right corner. White has gotten the arguably delicious descent with A over here. So white should be like, yeah, this is totally safe. This is my corner now. And there's still something left. Something about surviving nuclear blasts. That's the kind of feeling, yes. Like, it's not totally safe. There's a closet in your home that you're not totally sure doesn't have cockroaches inside, right? That kind of a feeling. At least in my opinion. Okay, let me see. So before we go to the actual games, I just I'm taking a slide over here. So we already mentioned the name Cockroach style here, and we didn't really start defining it or anything. So basically, the idea of Cockroach style is that it's a kind of a mindset or mode of thinking for when the game is already kind of looking bad for you. It's for situations where you may have a lead on a secure territory. Like you can see that you have 50 points for sure, and the opponent only has 30 points for sure. But the opponent has much more influence. Like they have a huge framework which is possibly becoming territory, or maybe they have a huge wall which they can combine into some position later on. So point is that the game as a whole should be going bad for you, but you have a territorial lead, and therefore it's possible to use this kind of a way of playing or this kind of a mindset that if you can just basically make the opponent's influence or thickness inefficient so that they cannot turn the influential position or the wall into a big territory, then you can win the game on points. And this usually involves several of your weak groups which have to struggle for life, and it's possible that you will get captured and that will just make the game end over there. So it's slightly a desperate plan, you can say, and it's very specialized. But beyond this, I think there's a lot that we can go into with this idea. Okay, so now everybody can see the board again, right? Yes, okay. So I thought I will just first show the... I think I have shown it elsewhere also, but I will just show first the game that made me coin the term cockroach style. So the cockroach gobbles up the inside of the cake, leaving the opponent with a hollow cake shell. Yeah, that's pretty close. I'm going to say something similar at the end of the lecture also, in the summary part. Alright, again, I have the title of this game also. I could make that one visible. Ah, yes, here we go. Cats are also good at cockroaching. And it's a long game, so I will just directly go to the part that matters for our discussion over here. So as you can read, I was white in this game. And this is already the kind of position that white has a territorial lead because of the big upper right corner. Also something in the lower right corner, maybe a bit on the left side. And black doesn't really have all that much at all. Like black has the lower left corner, which we can still call potential. Black has a bit in the upper left corner, and then a bit more potential on the upper side, and that's about it, right? The squares are the... I guess I will make all squares to mark potential. Yeah, so it's my professional game from I think 1.5 years ago against Matsubara Taisei 6 Dan. The origin of cockroach style. So actually at this point of the game, white is actually totally fine here, even by playing normally. So in retrospect, I should have just simply made the empty triangle over here, connected my weak groups, and let black play something like diagonal in the lower left corner. So I guess in this case, white could do similar in the lower right corner, and we would just have a normal game pretty much. Most likely white would be very fine like this. Okay, so Oscar here is having the same reaction already, like a empty triangle. Ugh, no. And also same as Tang Jie over here. Yes, I took the 3-3 over here. And I guess it's still not very bad or anything, but this starts trouble in the game. So black cuts over here, but I figured that sure the left side is fine. Connect over here and the left side group is alive. Black blocks in the corner. Now this was already slightly challenging. Because of course usually in this shape white will push over here, but I was actually pretty concerned that black might go down here, and I wasn't sure I'm able to live. Like if white simply blocks black can play this second line move over here, go out, and this white group doesn't have a very clean way out. So if there's no escape, then it will just be captured. So Oscar is also saying that maybe the attachment would have been safer. That's possible. Although I did find a way in the game as well. So I just played the Hane myself first. Black blocks, empty triangle, Tari, connect. So this one I figured is basically impossible for black to kill. Like black cannot really go this far because it sets up the cut over here. Black keeps a little bit distance and tries to kill like this. Still the outside is extremely weak, especially because the ladder is working for white for now. Okay, so I thought I managed this corner, although of course there's Aji. Like black can play this move 100% in Sente and white has to leave. We can call life efficient, of course, in territory wise, but this is giving black a very strong shape on the outside. So this position was just gradually becoming the quintessential cockroach game, where white has small weak groups everywhere and is just trying to live. And of course, if white does live, then this will be enough. But there's a chance that white will just get captured. Okay, so black started an attack on the center group next. I attach here for some quick eye shape. Attach here. I think I had to give up... yes, I didn't have time to connect here because black would play Atari. So I had to sell a Ponnuki here. And a second Ponnuki. But then the group was kind of out. And black just jumps on the lower side. I still have problems like black might start cutting up here, and white might not be totally alive. So I started living with the upper side group. Yeah, white is so busy. So I just lived inside what used to be black's potential over here. Like this. So the upper side is fine. I hope you lost. Strictly speaking, I should have lost, yes. It would have been totally fair. But at least here, white lived inside black's house, we could say. Yeah, I was regretting not playing the empty triangle at A2. White should have just connected. This became so bad. Okay. So center group fine, but the A stones got totally cut off, right? Like... possibly even without adding a stone, they're already dead on the lower side. So black just goes into the lower right corner. Here also white has to defend or the group would actually die. This would be a Tsumego in its own right. But basically if black peeps, or maybe this way, and Keimas, then that's going to be a dead shape. But then, black played c5 over here. I'm pretty sure that if black played anything on the lower side, like, I don't know, fixing this one or just the one spacer over here, just so that these stones cannot get out over here, I'm pretty sure I would have resigned this game pretty quickly. I mean, if just the whole lower side over here is black territory, then it's quite unlikely that white's going to catch up, even if he gets this one here. Because most of the white points are just in the upper right corner, right? And the lower side is going to be at least 60 like this, I guess. But black went for the lower left corner first and let me try something on the lower side. We could almost say this, we could almost call this black's losing mistake, I guess. Most likely with optimal play even here, black will be able to kill white. But now it's much more difficult. So we got one of the strangest living sequences ever. I'm not going to go too much into the details over here, but basically, if this happened, white would just make two eyes. So black had to let white connect. And actually, black started aiming for this ko in that case to prevent the G1 eye. And finally we are fighting this co over here for white's life, which is pretty much what white hoped from the starting point. Like, finally speaking, black doesn't get anything. Even the co-threat is not a co-threat because black resigns here. If black tries to kill, then there's a second die with this diagonal move. So although we can say that the white should have lost the game, black still made a mistake of letting white live inside the main black territory here, which is just what white wanted after white was forced to creating all those weak groups, right? Like when we look at the situation at this point, for example. Shusai is crying tears of joy. So pretty much, I think it must have been at around here during the game that I was just thinking to myself that, wait a second, I'm just like a cockroach over here. I'm just trying to live. I'm not doing anything else, right? Just trying to survive. And like, I guess even more important than that is actually, I mean, about cockroach style in general, the point is that you don't really want to think about yourself when you're playing it. Because if you're a cockroach, it's not like, it doesn't sound very fun, right? Who would want to be a cockroach? They're dirty, small. Everybody hates them, basically. But I'm not sure how many people in the chat over here are familiar with cockroaches. But the main point is that they are extremely difficult to kill, right? Like somebody made a joke about a nuclear blast and a cockroach is still surviving. You want to think about how much you're annoying your host. Yeah, Oscar here has it basically right. So the point is not that, yay, I'm living, this is fun. The point is more like, you cannot kill me. What are you going to do? I'm just here, what can you do? I'm there also, and here. And you cannot wipe me out. So, wait a second. Yes, I had a slide for this one as well, so I will just show it at this point. The attitude of the cockroach, right? So when you're doing the cockroach style, okay, so you fell behind in the game. Maybe you have more secure territory, but the opponent has such a huge moyo that you just cannot win normally, right? Or you were under attack like in the previous game on the lower side. So what you're doing is not living. If you just live, you will not win the game. Point is that you will not die. So it sounds like the same thing, but it's turning it around. Because the point is that you don't have the problem of living. You need to have the opponent have the problem of trying to kill you. And if they fail, then they will lose some points, right? And basically, one of our main tools in this plan is you need to be able to enjoy the part of living, or at least the part of not dying easily. Like, this is why I had the two Tsumego at the start, right? In the upper left corner, in the upper right corner. In neither of them, it was not very easy for black to exactly live, because it became a very difficult co-fight. But the point is that you had something there. You could set up a really desperate co, just to be able to argue that, okay, you're not totally dead, right? These are the kinds of moves that you want to look for when you have to play the cockroach style. Cockroaching needs to be fun, yes. Yeah, exactly. If you are suffering, you don't play the cockroach style so that you can feel fun with it, because that's not exactly it. You need to make the opponent suffer. And not in the normal way of getting captured or anything. It's more like the opponent has their apartment or they have their house, and you are a cockroach infestation. You just go inside there and don't let them live in peace, right? Humanity can live happily by not giving anything to cockroaches and no need to burn the house for a clean start. By not giving anything, but the cockroaches will take them for you, right? I guess the very origin of this term is just when I moved to Japan for the first time in my own apartment. The very first night I opened the sink, and a moment later I have two huge cockroaches in my apartment. And it took some effort to catch them and kill them. And I didn't sleep that night either. Make the opponent suffer. That's the feeling, right? Like that feeling when I'm lying on my bed and I cannot fall asleep because I'm afraid that I open my eyes and I see a cockroach climbing on me or something. That's the kind of feeling that you want to give to the opponent, not yourself, right? Pack your food in containers, yeah. But even then, when you have cockroaches in your room, then you quickly start thinking that spiders are kind of nice, actually. Because the spiders just mind their own business. They're in the corners and they actually kill some insects for you. The cockroaches will just walk all around. They don't really care about you. Of course, they will dodge your attack, but they're just scuttling around and taking everything they can get. Your opponent probably couldn't sleep after that loss. That's probably true. So that was actually very successful. Does this style also include playing extremely slowly? I guess your stones have to be quick at least. And you need to be quick in deciding if they... let's make the chat visible again. Yeah, the stones themselves need to be quick at least, I guess. Is there a reason why Sakata, Eio, and Fujisawa Shuko were such arch enemies? I believe Shuko had an aesthetic style about Go, in contrast to the practical Sakata. Sakata was famous for his sharp moves and his sabaki. Sakata was a sharp player for sure, but he was more like a attacker or killer. I think the main problem here may be that Sakata famously was not... he was not on good terms with almost any Go players. Like, I think he had this attitude that to be the best, he couldn't be friends with other people. Like, he just wanted to concentrate on winning. Or that's what I have read anyway. Cockroach mentality. But of the classic players, at least, Fujisawa Shusai is extremely cockroachy, I would say. And as the third game example for the day, we are going to look at his game. But before that one, we have a second game from my arsenal, which I thought we could have a look at here. Okay, and I also need to change the title over here, just a moment. This goes out and this goes in. Honeybo Shusai, yes. Honeybo Shusai, yes, not Fujisawa. Sounds similar. Yeah, so this is a more recent game I played against Hagiya Katsuhiro, 6 done. And also in this game, so I was black in this game. And also in this game I was finally playing Cockroach style. But at least this time I did it by decision. Like, in the first game, I just didn't want to play that empty triangle connection, and then I found like, wait a second, I'm too busy over here. I need to live with so many groups, and I was forced to play the Cockroach. But at least in the second game, this was just a few months ago, I think. I had created this concept of the Cockroach style, and I was more like, okay, so let's do this on purpose. And arguably, this was more controlled. Like, we can say that strategically this worked out, which is something that we want to have, I guess, if we play intentionally Cockroach style. Okay, so yeah, I'll just scroll over the start to get to the main position. Controlled Cockroach style. At least controlled in the sense that, okay, I'm going to go Cockroach here, right? And then you do it. Not like you're not really thinking what you're doing, and then at some point you're like, oh wait, I have 3 weak groups, what to do? That's also a good point, actually. So the last lecture I made was on Control Go. And there also we had this point about the number of groups, right? Like in Control Go, you want both players to have as many groups as possible. So that territories become small. But at the same time, you need to make sure that you don't have too many more groups than the opponent. Because usually if the opponent has just 1 or 2 big groups on the board, And if you have 5 groups, then they're usually going to be pretty weak, and they're going to get attacked by the opponent. And so that's control go, and that doesn't have so much to do with the cockroach style over here. With the cockroach style, we are already... we basically allow that we are already behind in the game, and so we are taking a special measure, right? We're taking a special measure of creating weak groups and just trying to live everywhere. That's wrong. Of not dying anywhere, right? It's a special measure, and that's for making the game complicated. So it's very difficult. It's very different from Control Go, where you want to keep the game simple for yourself. I just wanted to make this distinction here. Relating this to my Golden Group lecture, you could say that the cockroach style is trying to squeeze every single last ounce of profit from your not quite living groups. That's also a way to say it, yes. And it's also related to the Japanese term amashi, which is basically, we could translate it as trying to make your opponent's influence inefficient. Amashi. Amai is a Japanese term for when you have strong shapes, but they really cannot be transformed into territory easily. And amashi is making the opponent like that, forcing the opponent into that position that cannot form the territory. And Cockroach is a bit similar, just more extreme, you could say. Shinogi is more like the method itself, like it's referring to the way that you make your groups or stones live, but also related. You need to be good at Shinogi to be able to do Cockroach style. But so basically in this game I just made a big misread on the upper side. I thought H17 would be severe in cutting white off. It turns out that it really wasn't severe. So I just got this kind of a shape on the upper side with half an eye at G19. Isn't Shinogi more like you can't sacrifice anything, everything has to live? No, Shinogi is the process of making your stones live, and usually in an efficient fashion. So we say that you might have good Shinogi, or you have Shinogi skills. That's the way you use the term. So it's not good or bad in itself. But right, so the game became like this. So finally I just got a weak group on the upper side. White shape became extremely strong. And then white played on the left side, and we get this over here. And black is still not settled on the upper side, so I played a jump in the center. So since I played the AB exchange on the left side, it of course leaves the peep over there, which white used immediately. And this was the point of the game, where actually it was already when I played the jump in the center. But this was generally the point of the game that I was trying to figure out if I can keep on playing the game normally, or if I need to take special measures to get back in the game, right? Because I was totally unhappy with my result on the upper side. Black shape on the left is so thin. Yeah, so exactly, black's position on the left side is weak, especially after white gets this shape next to it, right? So there's weaknesses like the A gap, or maybe white can play just B and live inside, also while attacking black, or white can attach and C and so on. So there's so many different ways that this could just go wrong for black. So most likely, normally speaking, if we were to play regularly in this position, black would just block over here, let white connect underneath, and I guess it might just be a Hane over here. So white might Atari here, and something like this might happen. Now black might play elsewhere. So this would be the so-called fair way of continuing this game, like how it's supposed to go, if we're fair. And I tried to judge this, and I wasn't quite sure that this is good enough for me. Like, black has some territory in the corners, but white also got something on the left side. White has a good potential on the right side. So I figured that this wouldn't be a very interesting game. So I cut here. basically inviting white to start the fight over here. And the plan from here on is just pure cockroach. So A over here, compared to earlier, it's basically destroying all of the white potential over here, right? And not only that, but later on black might actually connect underneath for a little bit of extra profit. This is for much later, but anyway. So white plays on the left side, and of course the black potential over there is going to disappear. But I basically just wanted to get something in exchange from the upper left corner. So we get this. And this. White blocks. And we get a kind of familiar shape actually, right? Like the Tsumego at the start in the upper right corner. Then push here. So something is going on with black A in the corner and something is going on with B on the left side. We cannot call either of the groups strong or anything, but they're also not very easy to kill for white, right? Ah yes, black does have the D15 liberty, which makes a difference, yes. So white goes down, and I can just directly play this 2-2 move now. So this time if white tries to kill with a descent, black can play this one. And because of the D15 liberty, this is impossible for white, right? Let's call them strong to feel good about the game. No, no, no. We are doing the cockroach. We are not trying to feel good about the game. We are just trying to make the opponent feel bad about the game. That's totally different. Does white even have a ko? Well, at least white has a very bad ko, right? White will not want to play like this, but at least this kind of a ko exists in the corner. But yeah, for now white cuts over here. So black moves out. White defends the lower group. And I take this extremely delicious turn, right? So now B7 is going to be an emergency connection. Then I think... I went back to the center actually. White covers here. And now basically... So the point is that black could, for example, connect over here, right? But in that case, there's at least going to be the ko that I showed earlier in the corner. Although now that I look at this, this might actually be better than the game. In the game, I instead play this hane, and I go down to not only make the corner live, but make it actually live with a good amount of points, right? Looks like 5-6 points. Money. Exactly. But so then this, let's... Alright, so white also doesn't start the attack immediately. White gets some center moves in the center first. And then eventually white starts the attack. And this is actually now pretty severe. But one of the biggest problems in this one was that black's center shape just wasn't too good. Like in this one, black should have taken the empty triangle. Force white to connect over here. Then possibly also get this one and just link up on the left side. So basically if this kind of a thing happened in this game, although the center black group is still a little bit weak, this would have been more or less an even game again. Like white already lost a little bit of chances. It's not easy to say where white made a mistake, but territorially black is now doing very well in this game. Oscar is already looking at some kind of a killing sequence like this one, I guess. There are some conditionals left here. Think of all the dummy. Well, that is why I also played this one in the game, right? But it turned out that if the opponent played solidly at this point, like when I played this extension over here, white could just go back and take away the black eyes. There would be some AG, like for example black fighting like this, but the white group is not going to die before the black one, right? So this kind of a white chance appeared out of nowhere. White didn't take it, And that's finally how black got the most dream result ever, right? Like, because there's a Mi with A and B over here. The left side group is just alive. Upper left corner group also just lived. Okay, there was some payment with the C and D stones, so it's not exactly like it's game over or anything. But this is pretty much the kind of result that I was hoping for when I initiated the plan. And also the game was basically even at this point. I lost this game finally, but that was because I kind of ignored the opponent's Sente, which I knew to be Sente. And just something... I had a very bad headache during this game. Maybe that's not the reason, but I just ignored a move that I knew to be Sente. So basically over here, black's corner is fine after this move if black just goes down. And I ignored it and white got to kill it, game over. But that's a different story. So the Cockroach style, as we saw from this point on, basically worked, right? Do current Japanese pros play this style, or are they still very much concerned about aesthetics? I'm not sure if aesthetics is the word nowadays. Like, older pros might be like that, but at least the young players are extremely reading oriented. So in both examples, cockroaching is only necessary because of failure to play an empty triangle. That's actually true, yes. There might be some systematic problem there. Like, sometimes you just have to play the triangle, right? Although, arguably in the game I did play a triangle also. Like, this one is finally a triangle, just a slightly better one. Who Japanese, Koreans and Chinese exemplify cockroach style often? I'm not too familiar with Chinese and Korean players, but of the Japanese, at least sometimes Chojikun's games tend to become like this. Ashibana also, huh? Very possible. And then I think Chou at least used to be a little bit more like this. I'm not sure. Maybe Chou's recent games are more balanced. But like, there's also this quote by Michael Redman, who basically said like, Chou's groups are charmed. Like, they cannot die, even if you try to kill them. Which is basically exactly Cockroach, right? He's stealing cockroaches. Right, and so of the classic players, I'm pretty sure that Honimbo Shusai is one of the most blatant example of this. Yeah, Shusai is also the toothpaste master, as I wrote just a few weeks ago. So I guess we can just go to the last game example I prepared for today, so the Shusai game, right? So here, and I need to change the players. I'm not going to take the credit for this one. Okay, everybody can see the 4-stone game, right? So for the players who, for the watchers who are not very familiar with Honimbo Shusai, so he was basically a top Japanese player from around 1900 until 1930s, 1940, around that time. There's the Master of Go, the novel, which is also mostly about him. Previous game was no. I'll ignore that for now. Sorry. Yeah. So basically, Honimbo Shusai was a bit of a difficult figure in Japanese Go because he didn't have very good manners at some points regarding some things. And so, for example, there's a pretty widely accepted rumor that in some of his matches... okay, so he had this right as Meijin to adjourn the game whenever he wanted. So if there was an official game, at any point he could just say, okay, let's continue later. And then there was no choice for the opponent, they had to accept, and then the game would be continued some other day. And basically it's rather well accepted that when he adjourned the games, he would then go study them with his students, and they would figure out some good moves. And possibly at least some of his more famous moves could be actually invented by his students in those meetings. It's a rumor. I don't know what's true, but many people think it's exactly correct. The Japanese cannot speak out loud when it comes to this. But so this game we're going to see today is a handicap game. It's a teaching game. So Honimbo Shusai would have nothing at stake over here, even if he lost the game. So at least we can be sure that this is totally played by him, right? So we can see Honimbo Shusai's playstyle in this one. Some of the top tournament games might be different, we don't know. So let me see. Can you be Cockroach straight out for the Josekis? Like usually if the game is even, you don't want to go Cockroach, right? It's a special plan for games where you're behind and the opponent's advantage is mainly because of their superior influence. So Cockroach also doesn't work if you have less territory than the opponent, because when you start going Cockroach, you're not going to be getting any more territory. You're just going to barely live with 2 or 3 points each group, while the opponent usually gets more. So the living has to happen inside the opponent's potential influence, sphere of influence or potential territory. That's how it works. So also that's the main reason why I picked a handicap game here, because black has 4 stones at the start. This is basically like white is totally losing already. And now we see Shusai's style for how he tries to catch up with cockroaching against these 4 stones. Premise is to pressure the opponent into feeling behind on territory later in the game. I'm not sure I caught that, because your choice to play Cockroach is forced onto you because you're behind in the game. And the pressuring that you do to the opponent is you make them look at their nice house, their framework, and you tell them, there's a cockroach there, there's a cockroach there. Can you kill them? No? So that's the part where it goes to the opponent. That's how you challenge the opponent, basically. So you pick the one thing you have more of, territory, and you try to maximize it. You polarize the game. That's the way to say it, yes. So Cockroach style is for polarizing the game when you have more territory, right? If it was the opposite, so the opponent had much more territory, and they were also leading, and you only had influence, then we would have some different style. Then we would have some kind of a... Okay, I have no idea for a name over here, but you would try to make a huge balloon of a Moyo, for example, and try to get the opponent to invade, and then you would I don't know, explode the balloon on top of them, right? And make them die inside the Moyo. Something like that. If you are behind on territory, you need to get out the pesticide. Yeah, then you have to make the opponent invade, and then you kill the cockroach that comes invading, right? Okay, but there's not too much time, so let's see the game finally. I guess the very early parts don't matter too much. Okay, so here's already the first interesting part. Actually, this code trick that white is using on the lower side is kind of well known in modern Go. Like, there's this kind of a Josuke, right? And sometimes black comes invading. And sometimes this exchange happens and black usually plays this Atari, right? And then instead of just connecting, which would make the white shape a little bit inefficient, in this shape usually white wants to play the Atari over here first. So black will capture, white has a local co-threat. If black answers to this one and white gets the capture, usually there's no co-threat in the opening, which is big enough compared to white's getting K18. But if black's forced to play over here, now immediately this shape is already becoming better for white. Like even for the sake of argument, if white connects, we continue the co, and black wins it. then there's going to be a very strange exchange of these two market stones. Black's getting a very bad shape and white is getting a connection on the outside. And of course white might also just connect here. Let black get one stone and capture this one. But basically there's many different ways that this could go. Usually black just ignores, connects, and lets white take the corner. So this is a kind of a common shape, you could say, in modern Go. But this game was played in like 1920 or around that time. So we can see that it's not exactly a modern invention or anything. So Shusai attached here. He's basically just trying to create co-threads for J3, right? Like, he could play it immediately, he could attach here. Black will anyway ignore. And I guess he was hoping that black would play something like this, so that he could get a stronger combination in the corner. Well, black extended the other way, then white started it, and we just got this kind of a result. Which should be fair. So lower side is good for black and the upper left is good for white. But if we think about this in terms of the cockroach style, how is this position? Like, if you think of it in terms that Shusai is a cockroach master, then it's actually pretty obvious that he's already setting up the kind of game he wants to play here. So he got some profit in the upper left corner. Okay, so black has this nice influence on the lower side. But it's not exactly like it's black territory yet, right? Like later in the game, white can play like this, like this, like this. And this is going to be a living group. Here, white can just, in the lower right corner, white can just play a hanging connection, for example, and the group moves out. So it's not exactly dying either. Okay, something interesting in the chat. G4 group is already scuttling. Tied with 6th or 7th group and lost. Ah, okay, that's a different game. But yeah, so besides white setting up these groups that he will live with later, even in this position, it's actually a little bit difficult. When you think from black's point of view, what should black play here? Is there an obvious move you want to play on the lower side? Because even if you try to capture white in the big scale like this, white's going to live anyway. If you try to close the corner, well, strictly speaking, you didn't prevent white from running out from here. So already white is actually making it difficult for black to create territory here. Black just has a nice influence and thickness, but it doesn't really amount to anything yet, we could say. It's going to amount to something later, but for now there's uncertainties. Ah, G8 would be a nice point also, yes. Yeah, it's a good move, I like it. But yeah, so in the game, black is a bit weaker. He does something slightly strange over here. So white goes on the upper side. And then I think... Ah, there's the exchange here also. This one. Yeah, okay, so basically black just strengthened the upper left corner and white goes in the upper right corner first. And we get this Joseki here. Then we get G8 anyway. And now, yep, white comes immediately on the lower side. So especially because in the earlier sequence, white got some reinforcing moves here. Now it's easier for him to start living on the lower side. So black's potential turns into white territory, optimal. In terms of the Shusai style of play, of course. So forcing moves there. And this one defends the F3 the A weakness over here. Then I think black plays the upper left corner out as well. Game is lost for black already. Not quite yet. 4 stones is quite a lot to catch up to. But basically, for example, situations like this D18, these are basically... When you want to play Cockroach, this is what you should be having fun doing. Like, Black plays d18, but this group has so many different ways to live. I'll just get rid of a black's point here as well, right? Push a few times here, peep here, what can you do? So this is basically aiming for... if black cuts here, I think white will cut and play these Ataris. So black will push here and cut. And... wait a second, white can just connect here. Okay, so black is actually immediately captured. Yep. So he has to play here, as happened in the game. White connects. And black is forced to connect like this, and then white just lives easily in the corner, while also getting a strong shape. So it's like black used to be on the offensive here. Black tried to force white into a small life, and white was like, yeah, sure, no problem, I get everything. Or at least the black is not profiting out of it. So that Joseki happened, and yep, so lower right corner next. So we saw that white set up those weak groups on the lower side. Then he took some profit elsewhere. He lived on the upper side, in the upper left corner, also on the left side easily. And once he had enough time to take care of the weak groups, then he just goes there and gets rid of all the black black territory. Black had a nice looking influence, and now there's nothing. Just white cockroaches all around. So there's also some slightly slack black play over here, but let's not go too much into that. And then white enters the right side also. There's one last key point I want to see from this one. So black defends this lower right corner, right? And here we have basically a white string of stones that don't have a single eye, actually. And I guess the stronger players here also will know that black is aiming for this kind of a cutting play here, right? Because he has the ladder, he can just run out. So most likely after black plays this kind of a defensive move, which makes it possible for him to aim for the cut, we probably have to say that white has to defend, like this kind of a move or this kind of a move, something to fix the cut. But so Shusai is the cockroach player, so he's not going to play like that. He's going to play on the right side, say that sure, cut me, and then he will manage it, right? This is the cockroach approach. Most likely, if Shusai didn't play this way, that would be him basically saying that he caught up already. But that doesn't seem to be the case yet. So this happens. Black cuts white. Okay, let's look at this position then. White to play. How to start handling this kind of a position. This is one of the better, you could call it toothpaste maybe, but one of the better toothpaste examples I have seen recently. So how would you start saving this white group over here? L8 has a stone, right? R15 and N8. Sorry, what is R15? Wait, so Oscar, did you see this game already? Or did you already get the spirit of the cockroach? Okay, you didn't. Okay, spirit of the cockroach is strong in you. Hi Najee, I guess your game ended. Yeah, white has to get out somehow. So like, probably for most people around here, the first ideas would be, I don't know, maybe to push here. Which is actually kind of bad technique, because this is forcing black through also here. So this is basically letting black be the toothpaste, which is good for the local shape, because the black stones are efficiently affecting white both to the left and to the right. So this is usually not something that white wants. It's a bit better to have the stone a little bit further out here, right? So if black pushes out from here, now white might even consider playing A here. Because he's not too busy. Well, he's actually quite busy, but you could imagine him playing like this, for example, right? On J1, okay? That's nice. So that would be the usual kind of move. But so basically the principle here is that black has already cut white at B, right? And it doesn't really look like there's going to be a way that white can get his groups connected. So if you cannot combine them, then you want to make them the other way from each other, like as far from each other as possible. Because the closer that you play to the other group, the more you're actually helping the opponent weaken it. Like you're driving black to play these moves, which create the A cutting point. And that's something you don't want, right? So you go the opposite way as much as possible, and that's how we get the M8 over here. So in this case, if black tries like pushing here, what would Shusai do? Would he already play Hane over here, or is that too far? If he could make this fly, then he could probably do this. If not, maybe he will just extend, for example. So there's a cutting point here, but black cannot do it because of this kind of a problem. In the game, black extended solidly. So white leans, black extends, white leans. And, well, this is mainly because black's play here is not too good. But so the white group just gets out and end of story. So white got both the useful right side stones, and he still didn't get in trouble on the lower side. And the main point I want to show this one here is that it's not like you should be able to do this, right? Because something like M8 can be very difficult to come up with if you haven't seen it before, for example, or if you don't know the theory behind it. But when you have chosen to do the cockroach style, you basically want to make yourself think about these kinds of moves, or looking for these kinds of moves should be fun to you. If you can make this part of the thinking or this part of playing the game fun for yourself, then you will most likely be able to play cockroach style strongly. Like these moves are where cockroach style is at. This is how you do it efficiently. You're defending, and then you play these flashy moves or these territorially efficient moves that just don't just make you live, but also get some other profit. Like in this case, I think, did white actually, yeah, white got Sente out of it. Black played Hane and white just ignored it already. It was a Sente move. Yep, and then here. The cockroach uses attach. That's also true, yes. It's just that because Sabaki uses attach, right? So cockroach style and Sabaki are also very closely connected. Like a cockroach is a, you could say, extreme way of doing Sabaki. Sabaki meaning skillful handling of a situation or skillful avoiding of the opponent's attack, right? I guess in the cockroach style you will also sometimes just simply sacrifice your groups, but that's something that could happen with Sabaki as well. So should we just call it cockroach Sabaki actually? That could be a way. To me anyway, cockroach style is more like a mindset. Maybe I could bring the ending remark over here. Yeah, so here it's already starting to be time, so here's the summary slide for the lecture. So detective style, huh? So as I also said earlier, the cockroach style is a special measure for dealing with the opponent's influence when you are losing the game. So it's already something that you usually don't want to do because you have to create weak groups and there's a threat of getting captured and lose the game with that, right? So it's a way to make the game complicated for both players. And you can only do it when you have more secure territory in the start. So usually there's some opponent thickness or influence that you're kind of working against. Cockroach is not a style, it's a way of life. Yeah, for me it's a kind of mindset. So when you're forced into this kind of a situation that the opponent has this extremely strong position that you just somehow have to deal with, I basically just try to, like point number 2 over here, I try to imagine myself as a cockroach. So the opponent's framework is a house, and my job is to go inside and totally infest it with cockroaches. And so the point is also that you don't need to live with all of your stones, right? Like if cockroaches invade a house, some of them are going to die anyway, right? But the point is that there's enough to drive the owner of the house crazy. That's the actual plan of it, right? You want to make them feel anger and fear and frustration and finally make them burn the house and basically resign the game, right? If you get them to burn the house, then you win the game. Sabaki has something aesthetic about it, Cockroach doesn't. Yeah, that's a good way about it. Sabaki is something controlled. Like, okay, the game is going fine over here. Okay, the opponent has a kind of moyo here, but I let them get a part of it and I get a part, and everybody is happy. That's proper Japanese Sabaki. And the name of the Cockroach style is intentionally Cockroach style, so that you cannot feel good about it. It's not something you want to do, but sometimes you have to do. And then you don't try to feel good about yourself, but you try to make the opponent feel bad about themselves, right? 2 cockroaches is enough to drive Antti crazy. Proven. That's true, yes. Setting Goban on fire would be pretty fancy. I didn't see that one before. Huh? Can you make a Goban burn? It seems like it would take some effort. I have unhealthy amounts of fun cockroaching sometimes. Well, I guess if you can feel the opponent's pain and enjoy it, then you can feel fun about it. But you won't be feeling fun of your own positions, right? I wish games were no commis so I would have an excuse to do it as white. Good point also. We lost plenty of Cockroach when the OTI, the Japanese tournament, was abolished. OTI had no commi games. It was finished in 2004, I think, actually. Okay, but we're basically starting to be finished with the content over here, so just a few minutes. If anybody has questions, comments, now is a good timing. I can still answer them. And already for the people who are starting to leave, thank you for watching, and we will possibly have Go Jam next week. If not, then at least the next lecture is going to be in 2 weeks again. Most likely by a different teacher. And maybe also... Alright, I have the links also. So I should put the website link. So if you're interested in what the Nordic Go Dojo does, then you should visit this link. We're a school, we have an online league which you can join. It's fairly affordable. And there's also some free articles, and our lectures, of course, are also free, so you can watch them on the website. And then, on the topic of Cockroach Go, I also had this link for the Empty Triangle comic. I was going to make a slide... Wait a second, that's different. I was going to make a slide out of this, but then I figured that with Twitch it's probably not okay. Yeah, NGD students basically sponsor these lectures, so that's also why I'm here, because we have the online league. And so if you don't know the Empty Triangle comic, it's a comic strip about Go, and there's also one that's pretty much about Cockroach style, which I just linked over here. They don't mention the name, of course, but well, when you read the comic you will understand what I'm saying. Who are the contemporary players who like to play the Cockroach's way? Well, for me, I guess I would say Cho Chi-kun and Cho U. I'll just write them out. But of course, also because they're extremely strong players, they usually don't, well, not so often, they don't get in such a bad position that they have to cockroach all the way. But I think at least in Cho's earlier games, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there should be some examples of that. And Shibano, as Oscar said, yes. Yeah, Shibano's games get totally out of control sometimes. Yeah, cockroaches can even live in your Go bowls. Like, that's the kind of attitude you want to do when you're really desperate with your cockroach. Like, you have no choice. If you want to make it a game, you need to invade the huge moyo that there's no way to invade. Then you basically try to live inside their go bowls as well, the stone bowls. Okay, it seems like the comments and questions are ending, so let's finish here and see you next time in 1 or 2 weeks. Thanks, bye.